Beyoncé has stopped doing interviews, and this is why. Now, Jay-Z is a pretty big reason why Beyoncé doesn't do these anymore. Now, if you didn't know, Jay-Z and Beyoncé have a 12-year age gap, and they met when Beyoncé was really young. Now, it seems like the couple can't make up their mind about how old she was when they met. Not to mention, whenever Jay-Z is asked about their first meeting, he gets extremely nervous. Jay-Z has a history of going for younger girls, so it really has people wondering if they're lying about when they met to make Jay look less creepy. And then there's the actual interview where Beyoncé was asked about Jay-Z and how he could have cheated on her in 2005. You see, prior to their marriage, rumors swirled that the couple had broken up secretly in 2005. The reason for their separation was never confirmed, but at the time there were rumors that the rapper was having an affair with his protege, Rihanna. And though the rumors were supposedly spread by PRs to boost Rihanna's profile, Beyoncé wasn't sure what to make of the situation. "Tell me if I'm crossing the line," the interviewer says in the interview as he begins to ask a question about her relationship with Jay-Z. In response, Beyoncé lets out a loud, uncomfortable laugh. "Ah, you crossed the line, buddy," she says. "Really?" he asks. "Yes, I don't want to talk about it. You gotta hear the album to figure that out," she says, referencing her 2008 album, I Am Sasha Fierce. Now, it also makes sense that she wouldn't want to do interviews right now, as she and Jay-Z are already under public scrutiny due to their connection to Diddy. Now, Diddy and the couple were really good friends, but they're trying to hide that now that Diddy has been arrested for unspeakable crimes. Now, Beyoncé and Jay-Z would always go to his parties and would even play unreleased music there. Now, in December 2024, Jay-Z was accused of committing a crime with Diddy in the year 2000. This caused a lot of outrage, and a lot of people were upset with the star. Now, Jay-Z denied all of this and Beyoncé stood by him. A day after the accusations were made, it was the premiere of the film of The Lion King that Beyoncé and their daughter were in. Now, Jay-Z joined them on the red carpet to get their photos taken, but there were no interviews done because they didn't want to be asked about Diddy and Jay-Z's involvement. Now, some people say that Beyoncé is actually too famous now to give interviews. After she released her self-titled album in 2013, she stopped giving any interviews to conventional media outlets. Since then, she's appeared in various magazine profiles, but either submits her own personal essays or doesn't say anything at all. Now, after conducting an interview-free profile of Beyoncé for a 2015 issue of Vogue, writer Margot Jefferson told the New York Times that the performer has to be studying how effective her interviews have been so far. They may have decided that they do not contribute as dazzlingly to the portrait of Beyoncé than the other stuff. Also, Beyoncé has received weird requests while doing interviews in the past, like the one time when Barbara Walters paid her $5 to sing to her. Yep, when Beyoncé was doing an interview with her, Barbara brought up that Beyoncé said when she was a kid, she would sing for her neighbors if they gave her $5. Now, Beyoncé confirmed that this was true, and so Barbara then gave her $5 and told her to sing anything at all. Now, Beyoncé seemed a little taken aback from this, but decides to sing a little bit. Honestly though, this whole part of the interview is just awkward. And since Beyoncé hasn't done interviews in a while, she could be asked about some crazy things, like the whole "thank you Beyoncé" trend. Now, fans have brought up the fact that when a lot of people in Hollywood win major awards against Beyoncé, they always have to thank her or mention her in some way in their speech, and if they don't, they have an untimely passing or an accident. I mean, some people even claim that Kanye West saved Taylor Swift from Beyoncé's wrath when he stormed the stage at the VMAs to interrupt her. Now, I'm sure Beyoncé doesn't want to talk and deal with all of that in an interview. Beyoncé has had some strange moments with Ellen DeGeneres over the years, so it makes sense that she would stop doing interviews with her. Now, one year at the Grammys, Beyoncé was presenting an award with Ellen, but when she was speaking, Ellen dramatically kept looking at Beyoncé, and it was just really weird and awkward. Beyoncé lets out a little fake laugh and continues on reading off the teleprompter, but it was just so weird that Ellen did that, and a lot of people called out Ellen for her behavior. In the comments, people are defending Beyoncé, with one person saying, "You just know after this, Bey told her people to never book her anything with Ellen ever again." Although her words didn't say it, her eyes definitely said, "Get out of my face," like a true lady. Now, we all know that Ellen did not always treat her guests with respect, so this could be a reason why Beyoncé was never seen with Ellen again. Beyoncé has also been asked weird questions while doing interviews, and I can't blame her for not wanting to deal with that anymore. A clip has recently resurfaced of Destiny's Child being interviewed about the foot and mouth epidemic back in 2001. Now, the girl group had just hit the red carpet at the Brit Awards when they were quizzed about the news, and even they were weirded out. They didn't know what it was, and when it was explained to them, they didn't really seem to care that much. "We don't know anything about that, all we know is we just got here," Beyoncé replies. Now, Kelly Rowland chimes in, "Some tests should be run so this can stop." But yeah, it was just a weird question to be asked. One person commented on the clip, "We need to bring back normalize, I don't know anything about that," as a valid response for whenever someone asks a celebrity a question like this. Now, I wonder if Beyoncé herself ever looked back at this video and wondered, "Damn, I said that, WTF was I on, LMAO." But yeah, this was a very strange question for sure. No singer is perfect, but Beyoncé has been caught lip-syncing a lot in her career, and she's been called out for it. Now, this especially drew criticism when she performed the national anthem at the 2013 presidential inauguration, as it was later discovered that she was lip-syncing. Now, she later admitted to this in an interview, which is pretty embarrassing. She said she's a perfectionist and wanted her performance for President Barack Obama to be a memorable one. She called the day emotional and said, "I practiced until my feet bleed, and I did not have time to rehearse with the orchestra. Due to no proper sound check, I did not feel comfortable taking a risk. It was about the president and the inauguration, and I wanted to make him and my country proud, so I decided to sing along with my pre-recorded track, which is very common in the music industry. And I'm very proud of my performance," she said. At other performances, she's been caught lip-syncing certain songs as well, but people think that's due to the difficulty of some of her songs. Now, regardless, she's been caught many times, and owning up to it and her mistakes is hard for her. Then one time when she was being interviewed on 60 Minutes, she was asked if Sasha, her alter ego, would ever do an interview. Beyoncé then fake laughs and says no, she never has and never would. And I understand that because, again, that's weird. Now, if you didn't know, Beyoncé has an alter ego. She's named Sasha Fierce. She's been Sasha since at least 2003, and it seems like the Fierce was added in 2008 for her album. Now, Beyoncé said that she originally created the alter ego Sasha Fierce to keep that stage persona separate from who she really is. She described Sasha Fierce as being too aggressive, too strong, too sassy, and too sexy, stating, "I'm not like her in real life at all." But in February 2010, she announced in an interview with Allure magazine that she was comfortable enough with herself to no longer need Sasha Fierce. And not to mention, when celebrities do interviews, their words can be twisted by the media. Beyoncé is very particular about her image and only shows things she wants to. By doing an interview, that could change and she could lose control, which isn't something that she wants. Not to mention, her fans and stan Twitter can be kinda crazy, and there would be so many fights over what she said, and it would create bad press. It would be best if she just avoided that entire mess before it happens.
First up, we have Ryan Gosling. Someone's clearly been taking lessons from a sassy child, because that's the vibe that Ryan Gosling was sending off in waves while being interviewed alongside his The Nice Guys co-star Russell Crowe on Stephen Colbert's Late Night Show. In 2016, during their segment, Ryan stormed off stage after Crowe implied that he actually didn't need him for the interview, trashing Colbert's table before storming away with the house band and then joining the audience, basically interrupting the whole show. everyone in the audience had this very shocked look on their face, wasn't quite sure if it was staged or not, but later they would go on to say that it was a bit for the show, but many people speculated that that was just their cover-up story and Ryan was being a diva. Number 2, Piers Morgan. Arguably one of the most notorious on-air exits in television history occurred in 2021 when presenter Piers Morgan abruptly left the set of Good Morning Britain. This happened after the weather presenter Alex Beresford confronted him regarding remarks he had made about Meghan Markle's interview with Oprah Winfrey during the previous day's broadcast. Alex said, "And I understand that you've got a personal relationship with Meghan Markle and she cut you off. She's entitled to cut you off if she wants to, but yet you continue to trash her." This prompted Piers to stand up and exit the studio, which would ultimately mark his final appearance on the show. And later that day, it was revealed that he would be departing immediately amidst the controversy surrounding his remarks about the Duchess. Now, as he was storming off, he said, "Okay, I'm done with this. Sorry, no, can't do this. I'm off to spend more time with my opinions." Now, just a couple hours later after that incident, ITV released a statement saying Piers Morgan has decided now is the best time to leave Good Morning Britain. ITV has accepted this decision and has nothing further to add. Number 3, the Bee Gees. In 1997, during their appearance on Clive Anderson's All Talk, the Bee Gees found themselves at the receiving end of the host's jokes about their music. Within mere seconds of commencing the interview, Clive likened the group's distinctive high falsetto to Mickey Mouse and humorously suggested that the Bee Gees, renowned hitmakers, were only one letter shy of being hit writers. The breaking point for Barry Gibb and his brothers, Robin and Maurice, came when the host actually forgot their hit records, prompting them to get up and abruptly leave the show. Number 4, Crispin Glover. Now, Charlie's Angels actor Crispin Glover's unforgettable appearance on Late Show with David Letterman in 1987 secured its place as one of the most notorious moments in the genre's history. Crispin had previously garnered attention for his captivating performances in the 1984 film Friday the 13th, The Final Chapter, also followed by his role as George McFly in Back to the Future, one of my favorites. Now, his scheduled guest spot on Late Night with David Letterman was intended to promote his latest film. However, instead of the expected promotional interview, the actor, who was only 23 at the time, delivered a very perplexing and bewildering segment that lacked a discernible purpose or direction. The catastrophic segment ended with David declaring, "I'm gonna go check on the top 10," before walking off the stage and leaving Crispin briefly alone before the show just basically cut to commercial. Number 5, Joan Rivers. In 2014, the late Joan Rivers made headlines when she dramatically exited a CNN interview. CNN host Frederica Whitfield was accusing Joan of being mean in some of her harsh fashion critiques, which appeared to ruffle the comedian's feathers. Frederica continued to challenge Joan as she said, "You're not really worried about feelings getting hurt," to which the showbiz personality replied, "Well, not when it's about dresses. It's not about them. It's about the clothing." But before abruptly walking out of her interview, Joan yelled, "Stop it with the 'you're mean' and 'you're that' and 'you're this.' You are not the one to interview a person who does humor. Sorry." She basically stormed off and left the interviewer shocked and basically in disbelief. Number 6, Chris Christie. Now, comedian Jimmy Fallon couldn't resist slipping in a wisecrack about former Governor Chris Christie's weight when the Republican presidential candidate attempted to recount a story involving ice cream. This incident unfolded during Christie's appearance in 2015 on The Tonight Show. Now, Christie was sharing an anecdote about a recent visit to New Hampshire where he and Florida Senator Marco Rubio had stayed with Utah Senator Mitt Romney. Now, during their stay, Christie recounted how they all went on a boat ride with their respective families, and upon returning to the dock, Mitt suggested that they all indulge in some ice cream. Christie described his reaction to the ice cream offer as all right, but Jimmy, making a playful reference to Christie's weight, suggested that his response might have been a tad more enthusiastic. Now, Christie caught on to the joke and, in kind of good humor, momentarily walked off the stage before returning with a comeback of his own. Number 7, Paris Hilton. When ABC interviewer Dan Harris asked Paris Hilton if she was worried about her, moment having passed, she laughed uncomfortably, then basically left. She got annoyed and walked out of the interview after he asked her about being past her prime and kind of living in the shadow of former friend Kim Kardashian. Now, in the clip, Harris repeatedly asks her if she's worried that, time has passed, she's not really popular anymore, and actually points out the low ratings on her Oxygen reality show, The World According to Paris. Now, Hilton answered, "I've been doing this for 15 years now, so it's been a long time. So just like any other business person or someone in the industry, it's always important to reinvent yourself and come up with new projects." After several basically clipped, quick no responses, she basically sighs, looks off camera, and just walks out and doesn't return. Number 8, Naomi Campbell. During an interview with ABC News in 2010, supermodel Naomi Campbell abruptly left when a discussion veered towards a blood diamond she was rumored to have received from former Liberian dictator Charles Taylor, who was facing war crimes charges at the time. She said, "I didn't receive a diamond, and I'm not going to speak about that." As the interviewer persisted in questioning Naomi about the issue, the fashion icon rose from her seat and departed, accidentally causing a camera to even topple over in the process. Later in the same year, Naomi acknowledged that she had received the diamond while providing testimony during the trial of the former leader. Number 9, Prince. Prince was interviewed on The View in 2010, but he didn't actually stay for long, and for years since, fans have wondered how he actually really felt about the interview. Prince joked about being on the morning show and said, "These are strange hours for rock stars." He mentioned that there was a wonderful series of concerts that he was doing there, as he was at the time playing at Madison Square Garden. Now, while The View's co-hosts were all thrilled to have Prince there, since he was, of course, an icon, Sherry Shepherd was definitely the most excited. And since she was sitting right next to Prince at the famous View table, she looked super nervous. Right away, Shepherd said, "Hey Prince, could you just say, 'Sherry, I love you'?" He did, and they hugged, and that seemed like a very sweet moment, but then things got incredibly awkward. Sherry then said to Prince, "You don't understand, Prince. I've wanted to make love to you for my entire life." Prince felt extremely uncomfortable. His eyes went really wide. He kind of comically backed away from the host, but he actually left the set for good. He basically said, "Girl, get somebody else to do it." Number 10, last but not least on my list, is Rita Ora. Now, Rita Ora walked out of an AP interview after the reporter asked her about her ex-boyfriend and musical collaborator Calvin Harris. The interviewer said, "There's been a lot of rumors about Calvin Harris not releasing some of your stuff." Ora shut it down. She said, "Thank you, bye-bye," and she replied saying that while walking away. Now, it's alleged that when she split with Calvin Harris, there were rumors that she cheated on him, that he refused to allow the album to be released because he produced it, basically completely sabotaging her career and ruining all of the momentum she had made at that time, which is why the interviewer asked her that question in the first place. So it didn't end well. Austin Butler and Drew Barrymore. Austin Butler has been known to have a gaze that sucks people in, especially those interviewing him. When he went on to Drew Barrymore's talk show, he couldn't seem to take his eyes and gaze off of her during the whole segment. Drew was explaining to Austin that she had a date coming up and how she hasn't been on a date in a really long time. Austin proceeded to offer her some dating advice while telling her that he actually has a good feeling about it for her, but also offering to be her free get out of this situation phone call should she need it. He said he couldn't wait to get updates on her date and repeatedly said she could call or text him. Fans immediately picked up on this flirtatious vibe with her, and one person actually online said, "Find you a man who looks at you the way Austin Butler looks at Drew," with another person saying, "Not Austin Butler having a crush on Drew Barrymore." Madonna and Arsenio Hall. The Madonna interview on the Arsenio Hall show back in 1990 is often cited as one of the most memorable and provocative moments in television history. Madonna appeared on the show on May 1st, 1990 to promote her upcoming Blonde Ambition World Tour. The interview started off very lighthearted, with Madonna and Arsenio joking about her music and dance moves. However, things took a very flirtatious turn when Madonna began to tease Arsenio about his dance skills. She leaned in close, touched his leg, and made suggestive comments, leaving Arsenio visibly uncomfortable. The interview sparked controversy due to Madonna's provocative behavior and suggestive comments. Some critics accused her of being too flirtatious and crossing the line of professionalism. Madonna later defended her actions, stating that she was simply trying to push boundaries and challenge societal norms. Lady Gaga and Ellen DeGeneres. Lady Gaga's interview on the Ellen DeGeneres show back in 2011 was one no one will forget. Gaga appeared on the show to promote her album and perform her hit single Judas. Now, during the interview, Gaga and Ellen DeGeneres shared a very playful and flirtatious moment. Ellen teased Gaga about her outrageous fashion sense, and Gaga responded by jokingly flirting with Ellen. The two shared a fake kiss, and Gaga even pretended to lick Ellen's face. Yes, so the audience erupted in cheers and applause, and the moment became a highlight of the show. Dakota Johnson and Leslie Mann. Now, while promoting their romantic comedy How to Be Single in 2016, Dakota Johnson and Leslie Mann kept each other company during the press junket. Now, according to Harper's Bazaar, the actresses couldn't help but flirt with Miami WSVN reporter Chris Van Vliet, whom they referred to as the hot guy. Along with giggling flirtatiously, Johnson and Mann told him to take off his shirts and leave the last one unbuttoned. It began, innocently enough, with Mann complimenting the journalist's, cute socks. She started off by saying, "Are you single? You're handsome." The 3-minute interview quickly spiraled out of control, with Johnson asking, Vliet if he worked out because he looked, swolled up. The co-stars then coaxed him into unbuttoning his shirt, telling him they wouldn't speak unless he did as they asked. Dakota would later go on to apologize for her inappropriate behavior, feeling like it was all just a little too much. Andrew Garfield and Stephen Colbert. Andrew Garfield was a guest on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert back in 2017. Now, after a discussion about Garfield's kiss with Ryan Reynolds at the Golden Globes, Colbert asked Garfield if he was comfortable kissing another man, to which Garfield replied affirmatively. Now, Garfield explained that, he wanted to show Ryan Reynolds that he loved him regardless of whether he won or lost. Garfield and Stephen ended up sharing their own kiss, and Colbert actually joked about the kiss and even said that Garfield was a very gentle lover. The two ended up kissing twice. Of course, the audience, hooed and hawed, and it made headlines immediately, with many people, questioning the whole thing. Chelsea Handler and Michael Strawn. Now, Chelsea Handler appeared twice on Live with Kelly and Michael within 3 months, and things got heated between her and the host. Handler commented on Strawn's cellulite, and he replied saying that blacks just don't crack. Now, the second time she returned, the actress confessed that people thought they had chemistry during her previous appearance and that she liked black guys. Now, at the same time, Strawn stated that everybody likes chocolate, as reported apparently by Nicki Swift. Now, she jokingly said that he was throwing his body at her and that she greatly appreciated it. Now, Kelly asked if they ever thought about actually going on a date, and the two, joked, basically saying they do have quite a bit of chemistry, so maybe a possible pairing in the future we could see. Nicole Kidman and Jimmy Fallon could have been a couple. One of the most memorable moments in recent late night years was when Jimmy Fallon had Nicole Kidman on his show, and everything would change when she was interviewed. During the interview, Kidman admitted that she had a crush on Fallon when they met back in the 90s, which made for very awkward moments as the actress brought up old feelings. Nicole Kidman revealed a past date with Fallon, which he was actually unaware of, causing him to blush and cringe as she, recounted the awkward encounter. Kidman explained that a mutual friend, Rick, set up a meeting for her and Fallon, which she thought was a date, but Fallon thought it was about a possible movie role. Fallon recounts that he was actually playing video games and eating leftover Chinese food while Kidman was there, and he was completely oblivious to any romantic undertones. The incident became a running joke between the two, and they have remained, friends despite the near-miss romance. Now, many fans went on to say that Jimmy completely missed his chance and blew the opportunity to date the Nicole Kidman. Andrew Garfield and Amelia Dimondalberg, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, on an episode of Chicken Shop Date, which is her popular long-running YouTube interview show that takes place date style, over a meal at a local chicken shop in London. The pair's chat comes 2 years after their very first meet cute sent the internet into a frenzy. They teetered between leaning into the gimmick of the interview and their seemingly real chemistry, with a lot of giggling sprinkled in. Now, Amelia told Garfield in the clip, "I think that there's something going on, to the point where you've been avoiding me for 2 years because the vibes are too much for you to handle," acknowledging that they've had a couple of lovely interactions. Now, Garfield went on to say he genuinely thinks that they could have really gone on an actual date if it weren't for them being on her show. He said, "Take out all the practicalities and the logic, I actually believe that maybe we could have gone on a real date off camera." Now, the obvious current of electricity between the two has had the internet hungry for more after footage of several flirtatious encounters between the two went absolutely viral online. Kate Mara and Craig Ferguson, the former host of the Late Late Show, Craig Ferguson, was the flirting god on late night during his 9-season run. One of his, steamiest interviews occurred when Kate Mara came for her second appearance on the show and couldn't help but discuss lip gloss, making out, and the snake cut by his desk. Mara called him a dirty man when Ferguson flirted back with a sensual double entendre. Now, the first time Ferguson interviewed Mara, she seemed giggly at points, but it was mostly a pretty normal talk show appearance. However, at points during their first interview, Mara grabbed the host's hand and she spoke about how cuddly Scotsmen like Ferguson are. When Mara returned for her second appearance, her chemistry with Ferguson was on full display. Within a minute of Mara's second interview, she basically stated that she was jealous of Ferguson talking about kissing his previous guest, Morgan Freeman. Now, near the end of the interview, the flirting goes to like another level, or at least it seems to, because after the two of them are talking about horses, Mara makes a remark that even seems to take her by surprise. She says, "I'm really good at riding on the back of men's horses." She went on to say she didn't mean for it to come out that way, but audience members were not so convinced, and neither was his wife at the time, Messy. Mariah Carey and Howard Stern. Mariah's interview with Howard Stern in 1998 was quite possibly the most memorable one. While promoting her album, Carey was subjected to objectification and uncomfortable questioning by Stern. He made several lewd comments, leaving Carey visibly uneasy. The interview took a wrong turn when Stern began asking Carey about her personal life and relationships. Carey, however, didn't back down and instead called out Stern for his behavior. She later slammed Stern and his co-host, Robin Quivers, for their inappropriate interview style. The tension between Carey and Stern continued even after the interview. Carey reportedly continued to speak out against Stern's behavior, and the two had a somewhat contentious kind of relationship. Now, the two would eventually meet again in 2012 when Carey's then husband, Nick Cannon, was the host of America's Got Talent. With Stern as a judge, Cannon, developed a working relationship with the radio legend, and Cannon later revealed this connection helped actually bring Stern and Carey together after very long years of bad drama. And to throw in an honorable mention, I have Jack Harlow and Saweetie. The incident in question came as Harlow ambushed Saweetie during a red carpet interview before the ceremony. He surprised her by sneaking up on her and saying, "Hi, sweetie." He then introduced himself as Jack, to which she said, "I know." He then very flirtatiously said to her, "You don't like getting caught off guard?" To which she replied, "Why are you shaking?" The moment went viral, with many saying good for Jack for shooting his shot, although he missed. But later they would report that they are now friends. But let's see what the future holds. You never know.
In at number 10, Megan Fox. If you want to keep your job, it's probably best not to compare your boss to Hitler. During a 2009 interview with Wonderland, actress Megan Fox did just this while describing her boss, the Transformers director Michael Bay. Not only did this result in her immediate firing from Transformers Dark Side of the Moon, it also led to the actress being blacklisted in Hollywood for the next few years until she apologized to Mr. Bay. Upon reflecting on her being kicked out of the Transformers franchise, Megan told Cosmopolitan magazine that this was absolutely a low point in her career, but without saying what she said, she wouldn't have learned as quickly as she did. She knew that in order to get her career back, all she had to do was apologize, but she still refused. Fox blames her attitude on being very self-righteous at 23 and not being able to see that this was for the greater good. Probably the greater good of her bank account, I'm imagining. In at number 9, Katherine Heigl. Katherine Heigl seems to be the type of celebrity that just says yes to every opportunity, and then when she regrets it later, she just openly bashes her decisions in the public eye. The main example of this happening was when she co-starred opposite Seth Rogen for the Judd Apatow film called Knocked Up. When Seth Rogen was asked about this, he said that Katherine and him had a great time while working, but mainly because she was improvising a lot of her own stuff, which was overall great for the film. However, not too long after that, she did an interview with Vanity Fair and expressed just how much she hated the entire movie. Heigl said, "It was a little sexist. It paints the women as shrews, as humorless and uptight, and it paints the men as lovable, goofy, fun-loving guys. It exaggerated the characters and I had a hard time with it. On some days I'm playing such a why is she being such a killjoy? Why is this how you're portraying women? 98% of the time it was an amazing experience, but it was hard for me to love the movie." Well, Katherine, now it's hard for anyone to really trust you being in their movie, especially after an interview like that.
She had some commentary about Knocked Up after it came out.
What'd she say?
She didn't like it.
She didn't like it?
But she was so awesome in it, so it was confusing.
In at number 8, Charlie Sheen. Charlie Sheen is the exact polar opposite of what you should do when pursuing a career in Hollywood. He carries with him a terrible offset and onset reputation, and the debacle that he went through in 2011 even led to his contract termination from the show 2.5 Men. For a while, he was all over the news for everything, substance abuse, domestic violence, and even when he revealed that he was HIV positive. With his history of flying off at the drop of a hat and trying to get people fired who speak ill of him, Sheen has had a very difficult time rebuilding his career. Although it's hard to put a pin in just one interview in particular that really ended Sheen's career, there are certainly a bevy of bizarre ones to choose from. Perhaps the worst was when he was on the Today Show for a very candid conversation.
People that aren't special, people that don't have tiger blood and, Adonis DNA.
Strong people have relapsed. Strong people have started using again. How do you avoid that?
Fools. Trolls.
In at number 7, Tom Cruise. During an interview in 2005 with former Today Show host Matt Lauer, Tom Cruise wanted to make it very clear to the host that he knew more about the history of psychiatry than Matt Lauer did. This interview came at the height of the publicity about Tom joining Scientology, which became the painfully awkward main subject for a majority of their discussion. The highlight of the interview, though, was when Tom Cruise was asked about his previous criticism of Brooke Shields and her use of antidepressants, for which the megastar actor responded by calling her a glib. Anytime that Matt wanted to argue how antidepressants actually have helped people in the past, Tom would constantly dismiss him and just ask that they move on.
Do you understand that?
The difference is this was not against her will, though. But this wasn't against Brooke's will.
Matt, I'm asking you a question.
I understand there's abuse of all of these things.
No, you see, here's the problem. You don't know the history of psychiatry. I do.
In at number 6, Miles Teller. Miles has been involved in more projects following this disaster of an interview, but only because he made a public apology for what he did. For a while following this interview, though, his career seemed to be over. I mean, it really was that offensive to the interviewer that fans condemned the actor for his rude behavior. The young Whiplash actor had plenty of potential until he seemingly closed the door on all future roles with just a single interview. Throughout the 2015 Esquire interview, the actor compared his private parts to a glass, then asked the writer to cut his meat for him at the restaurant where the interview took place, and that he believes that he's better looking than the public thinks he is. Looking back, he admits to being a huge jerk, which is a bit of an understatement to say the least. In at number 5, Jesse Eisenberg.
Do you know the comedian Carrot Top?
Yes, horrible.
Well, you were like the Carrot Top of interviewers.
Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah. No, it's a good thing. It's
I'm
a good
gonna
thing.
go cry now.
No, don't cry now. Cry after the interview's over.
While promoting the film Now You See Me, Jesse Eisenberg just could not contain his utter disdain for this interview. Right out of the gate, he was on the offensive. The interviewer refers to Morgan Freeman simply as Freeman, for which Jesse then takes real offense to. He then, as you saw, remarks that she's the Carrot Top of interviewing, which insults the interviewer so badly that she just hurries Jesse to complete a magic trick or whatever so that they can just wrap this whole thing up. The entire interview is just one of the most uncomfortable things that I've ever seen, and this is only number 5 on the list. Trust me though, if you haven't watched this full interview, you must. It is just such a terrible exchange back and forth between an actor and an interviewer. A true masterclass of what not to do in press interviews. In at number 4, Billy Bob Thornton. As great as a career that old Billy Bob has had as an actor, he is also in a band called the Boxmasters. Although oddly enough, whenever he does interviews now, he insists that they only talk about the band and never ever bring up his acting career, which is really weird considering how prolific this guy was as an actor. You'd think if the interviewer was even a little bit of a fan of his, he would be really disappointed to get this demand before starting the conversation with him. The biggest blow up by far that was viewed as one of his most awkward interviews was when he and his band were on the show called Q for CBC in Canada. The interviewer tried his best to talk to Billy, but he always answered in a very confusing and confused way, which left the band feeling awkward to answer the questions on his behalf.
I wasn't instructed to. I'm not really instructed. You guys are here as a band. You're performing, but
the producer was instructed.
Right,
but somewhere along the way.
I mean, that was one of the rare times that he actually spoke with the interviewer, and I actually can't believe that he just told the interviewer how he was instructed not to call his music career a hobby. Like, no wonder this guy's had 5 different marriages. All failed. What a rude dude. In at number 3, Tony Danza. Before an interview with a local news station even began, Tony Danza was caught just slamming the local news in very colorful language. Unbeknownst to him, everything he was saying was all airing directly to live television. And then to make matters even worse, the news anchor is desperately trying to get him to just shut up for a second, and when she finally got his attention and gently reprimanded him for his words, Tony Danza didn't even bother apologizing for the unkind words that he was using regarding this woman's profession.
Kim, I'm telling you, this is crazy. I don't want to do this.
Tony.
I want to be part of the local news. How exciting.
Nowadays, he would probably beg to be part of any news segment or interview for that matter, considering how this one stunt really sullied his acting career. In at number 2, Hugh Grant. While some English accents may sound charming, Hugh Grant's personality canceled out all of that for Jon Stewart at The Daily Show. After appearing on the show, Jon Stewart said that he was banning Grant for being a big pain in the Stewart continues saying that he would never grant him back on the show. Pun intended. During an onstage Q&A, Jon remarked that they've had dictators on the show, but Hugh Grant was still his least favorite guest. Apparently, Hugh spent most of the day just complaining that he even had to be there, and even flat out said that he had better things to do. For which the staff of The Daily Show didn't really care to hear, nor did Jon Stewart. So, thanks to his high maintenance attitude, he was banned from the show with zero apologies. Last but certainly not least, in our number 1 spot, Pamela Anderson. I don't know if she was wasted or what, but right from the very beginning of this interview in 2006 with the comedian John Rope McManus, it was a disaster. Upon her introduction, she came running out with more energy than that time Tom Cruise jumped on Oprah's couch. Pamela greeted the crowd with a hair flip and then proceeded to toss a handful of green candy, I think they were M&Ms, doesn't matter, grabbed the whole handful, tossed them into the crowd. Candy that was plucked from a bowl at the table of the interview. Take a look at this.
And that's not all by the sounds of things.
Although the real nail in her coffin was the drama that led up to this bizarre interview with the former Baywatch star. According to John, the show runs live and Pamela was late, so he actually had to start the show before she was even in the building. When she finally did show up, she really seemed like she was doing everything to hurry up the process and just get out of there. Multiple times he genuinely asked her if she was okay, but that only made things even more awkward, and thus her career was finished, he said dramatically.
In at number 10, Quentin Tarantino.
No, it's my job to try and ask you to.
And I'm shutting your butt down.
And that's entirely your.
What a line! I'm shutting your butt down. Quentin Tarantino was having none of this interviewer's questions, but still tried to go along with it. He kept his cool for about 3 minutes before the gloves started to come off. The journalist's name is Krishnan Gurumurthy, and he has become notorious for asking celebrities the most awkward and really big questions about themselves, their past, and their work. Stuff that would be better suited for a 3-hour podcast or an episode of 60 Minutes. However, during these press junkets where they're only doing the interview to sell their film, it's hardly the place or time. In at number 9, Cara Delevingne. Let's just say her dry British humor was not really received by these happy-go-lucky morning news anchors at CBS Sacramento. At the start of the interview, she was asked some very dumb questions. For example, the film Paper Towns was based on a book, so they asked her if she had read the book, and then immediately after made a snide comment about her probably not having enough time to read. Cara obviously takes offense to this judging by her body language, but instead decides to flip it into a joke, saying that she didn't even read the script, just winged the whole thing. The interviewers actually take this as factual for a moment before her laughing finally cuts the tension. And that's not even the most awkward part of this interview though.
I think it probably is us. Well then on that note,
We figured as much.
We'll let you go then. How about that? We'll let you go take a little nap, maybe get a Red Bull. How about that?
After one interviewer asked her why she isn't as excited as her other interviews, she remarks that it's very early and that she thought it was going well, so again, jokingly she says it must be you. And the interviewer in the middle, like, oh my god, she sounded so bitter. That line of, well, we'll let you go take a little nap and have a Red Bull, how about that? Yes, how about that level of professional journalism? Good job, Good Morning Sacramento. In at number 8, Kourtney Kardashian. After her sister Kim was robbed in Paris, Today Extra, an Australian news outlet, was interviewing Kourtney via satellite from Los Angeles.
Okay.
They asked her how Kim was doing following this traumatic event, but suddenly Kourtney's face just freezes. You then can sort of hear what sounds like her publicist saying, "Do not answer that question."
Looks like Kourtney doesn't really want to
go there with
I think
that
she's
question.
blanking me. I think she's totally blanking me on that
I think there's
question.
probably a PR person there saying, you know, don't talk about it.
The interviewer then goes on a bit of a rant saying that she could simply say her sister is doing fine, as they too speculate that she was told to be quiet. However, she then does answer the question on her own, saying, she's not doing great, I think we're all still shaken up. And her response to what appeared to be her blanking was that the audio from their end wasn't coming through. In at number 7, Jesse Eisenberg.
Do you know the comedian Carrot Top?
Yes. Horrible.
You were like the Carrot Top of interviewers. No, and it's a good thing. It's
I'm
a good
gonna
thing.
go cry now.
No, don't cry now.
While promoting the film Now You See Me, Jesse Eisenberg just could not contain his utter disdain for this interview. Right out of the gate, he was on the offensive. The interviewer refers to Morgan Freeman as simply Freeman, for which Jesse takes offense to, oddly enough. He then, as you saw, remarks she's the Carrot Top of interviewing, which insults the interviewer so bad that she hurries Jesse to complete a magic trick just so that they can wrap it up. And the entire interview is just one of the most uncomfortable things I've ever seen, and this is only number 7 on the list. Trust me though, if you haven't watched this full interview, you must. You must do it. It is just a terrible exchange back and forth between an actor and a vlogger, essentially. In at number 6, Samuel L. Jackson. When you are interviewing a celebrity as big as Samuel L. Jackson, it's imperative that you do your homework. You know, like learn his name. When Sam Jackson was promoting the RoboCop remake, he was asked about a recent Super Bowl commercial he did. Sam replies, "What Super Bowl commercial?" and then hits KTLA reporter Sam Rubin with this.
What Super Bowl commercial?
Oh, you know what? I've been my mistake. You know what?
See, you're as crazy as the people on Twitter.
Jackson then proceeds to say, "I'm not Lawrence Fishburne. We don't all look alike. We may be all black and famous, but we all don't look alike." And Rubin repeatedly apologizes for this very public faux pas, but the damage is done and this just got super awkward. Jackson doesn't let up though. He questions Sam Rubin, saying, "You're the entertainment reporter?" To make his point known, Samuel L. Jackson posted this image on Twitter of him wearing a t-shirt that says he's not Lawrence Fishburne. You know, just to avoid any further confusion. In at number 5, Jim Carrey. At the New York Fashion Week in 2017, Jim Carrey made a rare appearance, and while walking down the red carpet, he did his best to avoid an interview with E! News. At first, he tried to kind of twirl around a few times and not really stand still, hoping that would work, but she was persistent. Carrey then says he wanted to find the most meaningless event that he could go to, and that's how he ended up there. The interviewer, trying to keep the integrity of this event high, claims that it's a celebration of icons, for which Jim says, "Icons don't exist. I don't believe in personalities. I don't believe you exist. But there is a wonderful fragrance in the air." And before departing from this awkward interview, he leaves her with this little nugget of truth.
Is relevant, that's not that
Here's
uplifting.
the thing, it's not our world.
None of this is real?
Nope.
So you're just passing
We don't
through.
matter.
In at number 4, Dakota Johnson. This without a doubt has to be the cringe heard around the world. We got to watch the live falling out between Dakota Johnson and her mother Melanie Griffith on the red carpet of the Oscars. Oh, the Oscars. Please insert fake laughter here. Man, Hollywood is so fake. Just because the cameras are rolling, they fake laugh their way through this entirely awkward interview. And the whole thing started off on a really bad note. The interviewer praises Melanie while repeatedly calling Dakota her little girl, which she is, but it just downplays how successful she's been on her own. Then when her mother is asked if she's seen 50 Shades of Grey, her mom outright says that she wouldn't watch the movie, which clearly hurts her daughter regardless of the content and the positive reviews. A kid is always looking for that recognition from their parents. In at number 3, Robert Downey Jr. This guy again. You remember that interviewer from earlier that was just a little too pushing? Well, he's back again, but this time with RDJ. And didn't I tell you folks earlier that he was known for just having the worst interviewers? I mean, this guy should be questioning politicians, not actors about their upcoming movies. He goes way too deep with Robert Downey Jr. in this interview, to the point where Robert Downey Jr. just says, "You know what? We're done here."
What are we doing?
Well, I'm just asking questions, that's all.
Right.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you guys.
Oof. That slapped so hard it felt like a movie. Speaking of slaps, when Downey stands up to leave, he gives Krishnan a very hard pat on the shoulder as if to say, "Good work, you dummy." The reason why he got so upset was because these questions virtually came out of left field. He went from asking him about superhero movies to Robert's let's say, tumultuous past. In at number 2, Tom Hardy. If you thought that was hard to watch, just wait until you see this awkward interview with Tom Hardy. At the Toronto Film Festival during a press conference for his film Legend, he's asked by an LGBT news organization about his sexuality, claiming that while his character is upfront about it, Tom on the other hand has been much more ambiguous about his sexuality, which leads to this kind of terrible exchange. It's the epitome of awkwardness.
Are you asking me about my sexuality?
Sure.
Why?
Why?
Thank you.
Okay.
Why indeed. That thank you he gives at the end too, oof, I felt that. Last but not least at our number 1 spot, Jerry Seinfeld. Jerry Seinfeld is one of the most successful comedians of all time. His show Seinfeld was on television for 9 years, and Jerry's decision to go out on top proved to be one of the most lucrative deals ever for this comedian. Since the final episode, the show has generated over $3 billion in repeat fees, but for whatever reason, Larry King thought they cancelled the show. Even though Larry King worked for CNN, he wasn't known for his hard-hitting questions, yet for whatever reason, he decided to use an interview promoting Jerry Seinfeld's B movie to ask him if Seinfeld had been cancelled.
Is this still CNN? I was the #1 show on television, Larry. Do you know who I am?
And you can see in Seinfeld's body language how frustrated he gets when Larry even tries to insinuate this. Jerry does not back down though and immediately goes on the attack, telling King that he was the #1 show on television before adding the very crass line of, "Do you know who I am? What's the deal with you not knowing who I am?"
Starting off our list at number 10 is Katherine Heigl. We gotta be honest here and say there's probably a few interviews that affected her career, but one back in 2008 pretty much landed her on Hollywood's blacklist. She took the lead in the 2006 movie Knocked Up, and the movie, as well as her performance, was well received. Apparently not by the actress herself though, who opened up about how she felt about the movie later on in 2008. In the January issue of Vanity Fair, she said the movie was, I quote, "a little sexist. It paints women as shrews, as humorless and uptight, and it paints the men as lovable, goofy, fun-loving guys. It exaggerated the characters, and I had a hard time with it some days. Why is this how you're portraying women?" This interview alone was enough for people in Hollywood to turn away from wanting to work with her, but it was sealed when she did another interview in 2008 where she dissed the writing in her show Grey's Anatomy. The actress has to figure out a way to either keep her mouth shut or just choose her words wisely.
I'm not a rude person. I'm not an unkind or mean person. I would never go out of my way or consciously try to hurt anyone's feelings or make them feel bad or uncomfortable or not be professional and do my job. I like my job.
And at number 9 is Paula Abdul. Back in January 2007, the American Idol judge did an interview that went viral instantly. Throughout the video, which happened to be filmed, she slurred her words, wobbled, swayed, and spoke a bunch of nonsense, basically. News anchors from Q13 Fox News Live streamed Paula from New York to do a live interview with her, but because of how she was acting, they thought there was some sort of connection issue.
Oh, I don't know if she can hear us right now.
They kept saying there must be a problem and that she can't hear them properly, but that wasn't really the case at all. Even when she did respond to their questions, she was acting like she was highly intoxicated. She was closing her eyes, slurring her words, just acting kind of all manic and weird. Later, she tried to explain, saying that there was a connection error at first, and they had a station from Alabama in her ear along with the Fox News at the same time. But once they fixed it, she blamed the rest of the erratic behavior on just being tired. She said fatigue and exhaustion just added to the whole thing, looking so disoriented. But no alcohol and no drugs. Absolutely no. The interview had a huge effect on her career. 2 years later, she wasn't able to land another contract with American Idol. The world didn't see much of her for years until she snagged a judging role on So You Think You Can Dance. However, her career just hasn't been the same ever since. Sliding into the number 8 spot on our list is 5 Seconds of Summer. Back in 2015, the band managed to alienate both their fans and a lot of fellow artists and celebrities in just one interview, and since then the world hasn't heard much of them since. In December 2015, their interview with Rolling Stone left people really pissed off. Michael Clifford, who admitted during the interview that he was hungover, bashed the American Music Awards, which they performed at the night before. He said the show was compromised and had, I quote, "a lot of fake people." He also called out Justin Bieber and said he thinks he hates them for no apparent reason at all. Luke Hemmings from the band left fans and parents feeling disgusted after saying, "When you put put 4 young dudes on a tour bus playing theaters, then arenas, you're going to have sex with a lot of girls, I guess. We had a good time. The interviewer awkwardly joked back, asking if they slept with multiple girls in one night or at the same time, and he responded with, I feel like I shouldn't say. You can say the possibility of that is high. People were pretty repulsed by their interview, and things just haven't been the same for their stardom since that day. Next up at number 7 is R. Kelly. He did some major damage for his career back in 2008 when he made comments about being with underage girls. But this interview came after he went to trial for being accused of child pornography. Kelly was accused of making a 27-minute sex tape with an underage female, but after going to trial, the jury declared him not guilty on all 14 counts. People were all feeling some type of way about him, some believed him and some didn't. But his interview after the trial didn't help paint a very good self-portrait. During an interview with BET, he was straight up asked, do you like teenage girls? After everything that went on with court, you would think his response would be an immediate no. However, he responded by saying, when you say teenage, how young are we talking? He went on to say that he has some 19-year-old female friends, but none that are technically illegal. After the interview was aired on BET, Kelly's team saw it and demanded that it never be shown again. It was already too late though, the damage had already been done.
This is not me, y'all. I'm fighting for my life. Y'all killing me with this. I gave y'all 30 years of my.
And at number 6 is Miles Teller. The actor had a promising career, especially after his role in Whiplash back in 2014. But it was after an interview in 2015 where his career took a hit and began to stall. In August 2015, he did an interview with Esquire, and he thought it would be appropriate to tell the female writer and their waitress that the bar glass was modeled after his private parts. He obviously used a much more vulgar term, but I'm definitely not going to repeat it. He was pretty sassy too, trying to demand the writer to cut his meat for him when their food came. The interview didn't paint the actor in a very positive light and says that things were changed around. After receiving tons of backlash from it, he told Vulture, I quote, if how that story made me look was how I really was, I'd think I was the biggest douchebag too. I know who I am, and it's not who I was in that story. Since then, he hasn't been able to book movies like he used to and has only about 6 credits to his IMDb in the last 4 years. Some of you might not even heard of any of them. Halfway through the list at number 5 is the Chainsmokers, another time when a band tried a little too hard to be edgy and just came off as super lame instead. Back in 2016, Billboard did a cover story on the band where they said things that people weren't too thrilled about. Andrew Taggart told the magazine, I quote, we rage every night. My mom's going to hate reading that, but she already knows. But his DJ partner Alex Pal said that they were pros, saying, but you'll never see us getting carried out of a club. We're way too good at drinking. Both band members continued on with the interview and thought it was appropriate to bring up their groupies, even though they both had live-in girlfriends at the time. Alex said even before Success was number 1. And then Andrew chimed in saying, like, why am I trying to make all this money? I wanted to hook up with hotter girls. I had to date a model. We're just frat bro dudes, you know what I mean? Loving ladies and stuff. And drum roll please for the worst part of the entire interview, the boys also revealed the size of their privates, saying that they measured from tip to tip. Classy. Here we are at number 4 with Gary Coleman. The actor sadly passed away at just 42 years old, so this is in no way to disrespect him, but to share what happened leading up to his very controversial death. The actor always had medical issues, but often didn't like to speak on them. On May 26, 2010, the actor fell down the stairs while at home with his wife and had to go to the hospital after cracking his head. He was treated, but the next day he went unconscious and landed on life support, where he died on May 28th. People were suspicious as to what actually happened, and rumors began to fly saying that his wife had actually pushed him down the stairs. Now, the only reason that they thought this was because they went to court after she accused him of physically abusing her. The couple was always known for their altercations and even appeared on the show Divorce Court. This is what led to Gary having an interview that impacted his career in a very negative way. One of the female hosts on The Insider asked him if he abuses his wife, and when he wouldn't flat out deny it, she begins to question if it's true or not, and that's basically when he lost it. He ended up saying to her, I quote, go F yourself. I don't know you, I don't care about you, your life doesn't matter to me. If you get hit by a bus tonight, I'm not going to care.
There is no abuse that goes on in my house. Now, if people believe that I'm waffling, then they can go do what they need to do.
Did you abuse your wife? Did you abuse her? Did you lay your hand on her?
And you know what? You can go the same place.
Then he storms off the set and tells all of the hosts to go f selves. People were stunned by his anger and reaction, and he wasn't very well received after that. Alright guys, at number 3 is Megan Fox. It is no surprise to anyone anymore that her career started to fizzle away after the Transformers incident when she publicly bashed the director. In 2009, Fox told Wonderland that the director of the film series, Michael Bay, is, I quote, like Napoleon, and he wants to create this insane, infamous madman reputation. He wants to be like Hitler on his sets, and he is. She went on to call him a nightmare to work with and said that he has no skills at all. As a result from her interview remarks, she was fired from Transformers Dark Side of the Moon and was only booking smaller roles and cameos. It wasn't until she later apologized to Bay that she was allowed back in the director's blockbuster movies, which is how she got to star in his Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle franchise. However, Bay told GQ it was actually Steven Spielberg who demanded that he hire Fox, and added that she may not have been the most professional actress on set. I thought Michael Bay was someone you don't want to be on bad terms with, but if the real issue is Steven Spielberg, that's even worse. In at number 2 is Charlie Sheen. He has a list of things that all play a factor on why his career came to an end. One of them was his ridiculous and totally inappropriate behavior during his interview with ABC when he confessed to still being on drugs. Actually, when he asked if he still uses drugs, his exact response was, "I am on a drug. It's called Charlie Sheen. It is not available. If you try it once, you will die. Your face will melt off and your children will weep over your exploded body." He went on to talk about sleeping with prostitutes and said that they are the best at what they do and has no problem admitting that part of his sex life. The entire interview is manic and whack, but no one could ever forget his famous line when asked about how he survived his huge drug binges. He responded with, "I have tiger blood in my veins." Since then, it's been an ongoing joke, along with his career. However, rumor has it that he has sobered up and it's possible he will be making a comeback. Taking the number 1 spot on our list is Tara Reid, only because it was so shocking. The sweet blonde shocked the world after showing up drunk to an interview, or so it appeared. Back in August 2018, she did an interview with Today Extra on Australia's Channel 9 to promote her movie The Last Sharknado. But throughout the interview, she was slurring her words, spoke very quietly, and often just trailed off. When you watch it, there's moments when you feel like she might actually fall asleep.
It really makes sense from the first one. It really does it makes a complete circle. And
after the interview, rumors started that she was drinking again, which was a problem from her past. She released a statement afterwards, not giving any kind of reasoning for her weird behavior, but insisted that people have no reason to worry about her health. However, people were still very much worried.